Scientists just discovered something that completely contradicts everything you've been told about what women find attractive. And spoiler alert, it has absolutely nothing to do with your bank account or your gym membership. Stay with me because the truth is way more interesting than the marketing industry wants you to believe. Hey everyone, I'm your host, and if you've ever felt confused about what women actually want in a man, you're not alone. In fact, you're part of the majority. A recent survey by the Journal of Social Psychology found that over 72% of men admit they're completely clueless about female attraction. And honestly, that statistic doesn't surprise me one bit because the information out there is absolutely terrible. Here's what's wild. The fitness industry wants you to believe it's all about six-pack abs. Dating apps want you to believe it's about having the perfect photo and witty one-liners. Hollywood wants you to believe it's about being a billionaire bad boy with a motorcycle. But none of that is actually true, and that's exactly why I'm making this video. What I'm about to share with you comes from actual research, real conversations, behavioral psychology, and honestly, years of observation. This isn't some generic dating advice. This is the stuff that actually works because it's based on how human attraction actually functions, not on what makes for good clickbait. The crazy part? Most of what women find genuinely attractive is something you can develop starting today. Not tomorrow, not next month. Today. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why certain men seem to effortlessly attract quality women while others struggle despite having everything on paper. So if you're ready to actually understand female attraction instead of just guessing, keep watching. Let's start with something that sounds obvious but is actually wildly misunderstood: confidence. Everyone tells you to be confident, right? It's like the default advice. Be confident and women will be attracted to you. But here's where most guys completely miss the mark. There's a massive difference between actual confidence and the fake performance version that most men are trying to pull off. Real confidence isn't about walking into a room and announcing your presence like you're the main character of an action movie. That's arrogance. And arrogance is actually a major turnoff for most women. A Harvard Business School study found that men who displayed arrogance were rated as 43% less attractive than men displaying genuine confidence. So what's the actual difference? Real confidence is about being comfortable with yourself, including your flaws. It's about knowing your value without needing external validation. It's about being able to laugh at your own mistakes instead of becoming defensive. Here's a concrete example that illustrates this perfectly. I once knew two guys, let's call them Marcus and David. Marcus was objectively the more impressive person on paper. Better job, better apartment, knew all the right restaurants, but Marcus couldn't take a joke about himself. If someone pointed out anything remotely critical, he'd get defensive and try to justify it or downplay it. David, on the other hand, had a completely different energy. His job was decent, but not amazing. His apartment was small, but when he made a mistake or someone teased him, he'd laugh genuinely and make fun of himself first. The interesting part? David consistently attracted higher quality women. Why? Because his comfort with himself created safety. Women felt like they could be authentic around him because he was already being authentic. He wasn't performing a version of himself. This leads to something most dating advice completely misses. Women are highly attuned to authenticity. A study from the University of Toronto found that women's brain activity during attraction assessment increased by 68% when they detected genuine behavior patterns versus performed behavior patterns. Basically, your brain is literally wired to notice when someone's being real versus when they're putting on an act. The real confidence that attracts women is boring and unsexy sounding. But here's what it actually looks like. It's admitting when you don't know something instead of pretending to be an expert. It's being comfortable saying, I'm not really into that, instead of pretending to like something to impress someone. It's being able to disagree with someone without needing to win the argument. And here's the kicker that most guys miss. This kind of confidence is actually something you develop through experience and self-awareness, not through affirmations in the mirror. It comes from knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, and being willing to show that to someone even if they might reject you for it. This next part is where things get really interesting because this is the factor that separates men who have one great relationship from men who keep cycling through relationships that fail for the same reasons. Emotional intelligence is basically your ability to understand, manage, and respond to emotions, both your own and others. And here's the shocking part. It's one of the strongest predictors of relationship satisfaction and longevity. A study published in the journal Emotion found that couples where the man had high emotional intelligence reported 56% higher relationship satisfaction scores than couples where the man had low emotional intelligence. Let me break down what this actually means in real life. High emotional intelligence means you can recognize when your girlfriend is upset and understand that sometimes she needs to vent, not be fixed. It means you understand the difference between what someone says and what someone actually means. It means you can have difficult conversations without becoming defensive or shutting down emotionally. Here's where most guys completely fall apart. They confuse emotional intelligence with being overly emotional or sensitive. That's not it at all. Emotional intelligence includes emotional regulation, meaning you can feel frustrated, angry, or disappointed without letting those emotions control your behavior. I'll give you a real scenario that shows this. Your girlfriend comes home after a terrible day at work. She's frustrated about her boss, her coworkers, the project she's working on. A guy with low emotional intelligence might try to solve it. Why don't you just tell your boss you're unhappy? Or, have you tried looking for a different job? He thinks he's being helpful, but what she actually needed was for him to just listen and validate that her experience is legitimate. A guy with high emotional intelligence recognizes this. He asks questions. He listens without planning his response while she's still talking. He validates her feelings, and only if she asks for advice does he offer suggestions. This single skill transforms how women experience relationships with you because it fundamentally changes how safe and seen they feel with you. But here's the deeper layer that's really important. Emotional intelligence includes self-awareness. You need to understand your own patterns, your triggers, your insecurities. Because here's the truth. If you're insecure and you can't manage it, that insecurity starts running your relationships. You become jealous, controlling, or distant as a protection mechanism. Women can feel this, and it creates anxiety in the relationship. On the flip side, when you're genuinely secure with yourself, not arrogant, but secure, you don't need to control your partner or constantly validate your worth through her. This creates space for her to be herself, which paradoxically makes her feel more attracted to you because she's not walking on eggshells. There's another component of emotional intelligence that doesn't get talked about enough: the ability to repair after conflict. Every relationship has conflict. That's not the problem. The problem is couples who don't know how to repair the relationship after disagreements happen. High emotional intelligence means you can apologize genuinely without conditions. You can ask for forgiveness and actually mean it. You can rebuild connection after things have been tense. Now we're getting into something that definitely gets misrepresented constantly, so I want to be really clear here. When women say they're attracted to ambitious men, they're not talking about money. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Money matters, sure. Financial stability is important, but it's not the main thing. What women are actually attracted to is purpose and direction. There's a significant difference. A guy making six figures but hating his job and just doing it for status is one thing. A guy making a moderate income but genuinely passionate about his work and actively building something is completely different. There's research from Rutgers University that separated attraction factors by income level. Here's what they found. For women earning below the median income, a man's financial stability was important. But for women earning at or above the median income, and this is the key part, his sense of purpose and direction was rated as more important than his income level. And this makes sense when you think about it. A woman with her own income doesn't need a man to provide for her. What she needs is a partner who's going somewhere, who has goals, who's actively working towards something. Why? Because ambition indicates several attractive qualities: determination, resilience, the ability to delay gratification, responsibility, and self-respect. Here's the distinction that actually matters: passion versus obsession. Some guys are so obsessed with their goals that they neglect everything else, including their relationships. That's not attractive. That's actually a major relationship risk factor. Real ambition is having goals and working toward them while also being present, available, and invested in the people you care about. Think about this scenario. You've got two guys. Guy A makes great money, works 70 hours a week, is always stressed, talks constantly about his work, and is emotionally unavailable because he's so focused on climbing the ladder. Guy B makes decent money doing work he actually enjoys. He leaves at a reasonable hour. He's genuinely interested in building a life with someone, not just building his bank account. Most women would choose Guy B, and it's not because he makes less money. It's because his ambition isn't consuming him. He's got purpose, but he's also got balance. Another aspect of ambition that gets totally overlooked: self-improvement as a form of ambition. Guys who actively work on themselves, reading, developing skills, going to therapy, learning new things, they have this energy that women find incredibly attractive. It shows that you value growth, that you're not stagnant, that you're taking responsibility for your own development. But here's the thing about ambition that actually matters the most: it has to be authentic to you. If you're pursuing something because you think women will be impressed, it comes across as inauthentic. Women can tell the difference between a guy who's genuinely passionate about something and a guy who's doing it for external validation. The most attractive version of ambition is this: you've got something you care about, you're actively working toward it, you experience setbacks and you keep going anyway, and you're not expecting applause for doing normal things. That's the real deal. This one's actually kind of fun because it's so simple but overlooked. Humor is genuinely one of the most attractive qualities men can have, and I'm not talking about being able to tell jokes like you're auditioning for a comedy special. What I mean is the ability to laugh, especially at yourself. Men who can laugh at their own mistakes, who don't take every criticism as a personal attack, who can find humor in uncomfortable situations, those guys have a major advantage. There's an evolutionary psychology explanation for this too. Humor indicates intelligence, emotional stability, and the ability to find perspective even when things are difficult. Here's what's interesting from the research side. When psychologists studied humor in relationships, they found that couples who could laugh together had significantly better relationship outcomes. The ability to use humor to diffuse tension, to not turn everything into a drama, to keep things light, these are massive relationship skills. But this is where guys often get it wrong. They try too hard to be funny. They make jokes that land flat, or worse, they make jokes at someone else's expense, thinking it makes them look funnier. That backfires spectacularly. The actual attractive version is casual, natural humor. It's someone who doesn't need the room laughing at a joke he told to feel good about himself. He can laugh at a funny observation someone else makes. He can laugh when he messes up. He doesn't take himself so seriously that everything becomes a potential threat to his ego. Here's something that sounds super basic, but is actually rare as hell: genuine presence and listening. Most men, when they're talking to someone, are already planning their response, thinking about what they want to say next, or their attention is partially on their phone. Real listening, active, engaged, genuine listening is almost a superpower at this point. When a woman feels truly heard and understood, it creates connection. And connection is honestly the foundation of attraction that lasts. Physical attraction fades, but if someone makes you feel genuinely seen and understood, that's something entirely different. This looks like putting your phone away during conversations, asking questions about things she's mentioned before, showing you were actually listening, remembering details and bringing them up later, not interrupting or trying to one-up her story with your own story. The research backs this up too. A study on intimate relationships found that feelings of being truly heard correlated with relationship satisfaction at a 0.78 level, meaning it's a strong, reliable connection. When your partner feels like you actually listen to her and understand her, she feels safe, valued, and genuinely attracted to you on a deeper level. This one actually determines everything about who women will ultimately choose long term, and yet it's the most underrated factor by far. How you treat people who can't do anything for you: service workers, the homeless person asking for change, your friends when they're going through something difficult. This shows your actual character. And women pay attention to this specifically because it predicts how you'll treat her when the honeymoon phase wears off. There's a psychological principle called the halo effect, and there's also something called the dark side assessment. Women are assessing whether you're a genuinely good person or whether you're just performing, being nice to impress them. These assessments happen constantly and often unconsciously. A guy who's kind to his partner but dismissive to service workers? That's a red flag because it suggests he's conditional with his respect. He's nice to people who have value to him, but dismissive to people he perceives as beneath him. A guy who's actually kind across the board? That's real character and that's deeply attractive. So here's what we've actually covered: real confidence, emotional intelligence, authentic ambition, humor, genuine listening, and actual kindness. These aren't sexy topics, and they're not something you can fake for very long, but these are the things that create attraction that lasts, attraction that transforms into real connection and real relationships. The biggest takeaway here is this: what women actually find attractive isn't some mysterious secret code. It's about being a genuine, self aware, emotionally intelligent person who's working on something meaningful and treating people with respect. That's it. And if you want the deeper, more detailed breakdown of how to actually implement these qualities in your life, because knowing what's attractive is one thing, but actually becoming that person is something else entirely, I've created something specifically for that. The next video in this series is called How to Become the Man Women Actually Want, and it's basically the practical playbook for everything we just talked about. It walks you through step by step how to develop genuine confidence, improve your emotional intelligence, build real purpose, and transform the way women experience you. This isn't just another video, it's the actual framework that bridges the gap between understanding what women want and actually being that man. So go ahead and watch it right now, because once you understand these principles, the next step is making them real in your actual life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.